I love entrepreneurs. We are a different breed of human. We have a different level of ambition and self-belief, and it drives us to do things others wouldn't and take risks, which sometimes puts us in a lonely place. When the going gets tough, we have a different level of grit. We have a growth mindset. We learn fast, we play to our strengths, and we compensate for our weaknesses. We see opportunity where others see nothing. We see possibility where others only see impossibility. We take actions to make dreams and visions a reality. We conjure courage where fear paralyses others, or we feel the fear and do it anyway. Simply say screw it, push comfort zones and test our own limits. We lead, we manage, we solve problems, we add value, and we break the rules. We simply change the way the game is played, and throughout all, we inspire. We see the pain, the suffering and the waste of life that the rat race is, and we called it out. We dared to dream, and we said, do you know what? It's better to give it a go and fail than to never know. We don't live a life of regret. We don't sit around and wait for someone else to make our lives better. We go out there and take full responsibility for everything that happens to us. The good, the bad, the ugly, the stress, the success, the challenges and the rewards. We don't fear failure. We fear waking up one day many years from now and wondering, what if? We make decisions and we decide to live a life of meaning, fulfillment and purpose. We dared to believe that we could make a dent in the universe and leave a legacy, become someone, an identity by design, a lifestyle by design, to live deliberately and on our terms, to spend a few years doing what most won't, so we can spend the rest of our lives doing what most can't. We are as brave as we are foolish, ambitious as we are discontent. We have a touch of genius with a splash of madness and an air of arrogance, with a cool, calm confidence. And yet for all of our good points, we are deep thinkers with a dark side. We have a secret. That any time we can still push the self-destruct button. What if I'm not good enough? What if I'm successful but then lose it all? What will people think of me if I become richer or happier than them? Why do I deserve so much when so many live with so little? Sure, we have demons, every one of us. Head shit that we battle with. We could choose to leave it all behind, squash it and move on. But there's a strange comfort in dancing with it, inviting it in and wondering if you can stare it straight in the eye and win this time. But you don't. It never gives in. Is entrepreneurship a gift or a curse? Is it inevitable that we feel this way, or is it that which secretly drives us on? The pain of staying the same is simply more than the pain of change. Is this the dark before the dawn, the sign that change is coming when you need to step it up a gear? Surely, the uncertainty of tomorrow drives me forwards to determine my own future. I'm not shackled by the constraints of employment or the establishment. I am an entrepreneur. I'm hoping you find that resonates with you and that you can connect with some of the words there. But for today, let's talk about battle plan. For me, battle plan is a blueprint for a conscientious leader to be able to create a significant and sustainable, scalable business for their organization. But other than that, I want it to be a day-to-day roadmap, something that we use as a sat-nav to be able to help and support us, to be able to make more bigger, bolder, stronger, faster decisions that we can enable us to not just grow throughout 2025, but significantly transform the way in which we do business to be able to create a different outcome for both ourselves and for the shareholders and stakeholders within the business, but also to start shaping the industry that we're in, to be able to lead from the front as opposed to being swayed by other people and other sector decisions that are sometimes influencing what we choose to be able to do and move forward. So what is a business plan from my perspective? Well, it's invariable. And I'll tell you what, I'm just going to do a quick stop screen share, I'm just going to do a quick raise of hands. Just out of curiosity, who here currently has a business plan? Something that is a document that is up to date and referenced in order to be able to help and grow the business move forward. Just out of curiosity, as a quick share of hands, if you would, please. So Derek says yes, Scott and Neil. It's just Sarah that hasn't raised a hand as of yet. That's no problem. There's plenty of times to be able to give considerations to it. Just out of curiosity, I wanted to find out where we were with that. So without further ado, I want to share with you what my perception of a business plan really is. Because invariably, what we tend to find is that most people think of a business plan as something associated with a bank lend. I can almost guarantee that if you've ever had to borrow money in the past, certainly within the business, other than through COVID and the bounce back loan, that the chances are that even considering the application, the first thing the bank's done is said, where's your business plan? And if you haven't already done one, then they'll point you towards one of their templates, and it's almost about 30, 40, 50 pages long of information being asked to satisfy the lender of your plans within the business. I'm not talking about that type of business plan, although we are going to make a template available to you after today if you haven't already got one in place. So, Sarah, you're in safe hands. I believe that a business plan is the end result is a written document, but the process of being able to create it is a process of examining and challenging the mindset of the business owner or entrepreneur. And then once it's been challenged and considered and examined as to what it is that you're trying to achieve, to then convert that thinking into a reliable and implementable roadmap in order to be able to operate within. It's almost creating the sat-nav and the directions of helping both you as the business owner and the people supporting you, either in the business or around the business, the associates, the joint partners that you might have in place, the outsourced teams, to be able to understand that we're all working in the same direction. So whilst a business plan might be for a bank in one description, I believe that there's a lot more to be done on a day-to-day basis with an internal document that we can all help and follow. The external document is pages and pages of evidence to support an application for lend, and an internal document is something a lot more easy to follow. It's a living, breathing document that everyone in the business could be allowed to see and use to be able to determine how to be able to make speedy directions in the right direction. And for that, I take a leaf from this chap's book. At the time where he made this comment, it was at the launch of his 174th business. And at the time, he was the third richest man on the planet. Obviously, I'm referring to Mr. Warren Buffett. And there's a lovely quote that he said at the launch of this business that he launched, his 174th business that he launched, where he said, most people think small, whereas I automatically just think big. And that on a day-to-day basis gives me the advantage. So today I want to take a leaf out of Warren's book and to be able to step into what does thinking bigger than we are currently, and how do we create a simple to use roadmap to be able to guide every decision that we make in every aspect of the business, to be able to ensure that it's all contributing to be able to make it your boat go faster. And for that, we're going to use this document as an outline. So if you haven't already done so, or if you'd like to be able to take either a screenshot or to be able to sketch out, you don't need to write the numbers or anything on there, but if you'd just like to be able to sketch the black outline onto a piece of paper, we're going to go through this in details to be able to understand as to how this works. And because My True North, we were awarded the Ethical Coaching Company as an award in 2017, as opposed to some form of PR stunt. Throughout this presentation, not only am I going to show you as to each element and how you could build that, but I'm going to share you behind the screens behind the scenes rather, by sharing with you my True North's business plan as how we've implemented this in our business, to give you a real life example of how you can implement this and then use it as a day-to-day guide for both you and your team. And as you see, for every time that we've got a number on this side, it's almost got a corresponding number on the other side. I believe that any business is made up of two predominant set halves. You've got front of house, the things that we do in front of the customer, and you've got back of house, all the things that happen in the back office and the admin in order to be able to support the business to be able to move forward. And I genuinely believe that for every decision that we make front of house, we'll have a consideration as to the impact that has back of house and vice versa. And therefore, rather than creating a business plan in silos of this is what marketing do and this is what sales does, we need to give considerations to, as we make a change here, what's the impact externally as well as internally. So without further ado, like I say, let's crack on and start off by understanding that the best place to start in any business plan is to have clear directions to establish as to who is it I'm serving? Actually, who is it that I'm working with? Now, most people will say, well, anyone who wants a dance party, anyone that wants a videographer, anyone that wants a house building and to be able to stand up, anyone could be anyone. And the simple fact is that although we hear this word niche, and often we hear about the importance of the money is in the niche, it becomes so much more challenging for a business owners to think about niching their business with the fear of missing out on people outside of whatever words that they've put on a piece of page. And we're not asking you to become exclusive at all. I'm merely suggesting to you is if you've got 10 people in front of you, and some of them are going to be absolute advocates for who you are, what you do, how you do it. They'll pay on time. They'll happily recommend and refer you to their friends and family and other people within the network. You've got another bunch of people that will do the work with you, but they might query the bill. They might be a little bit more obnoxious and say, well, what about this? And how about that? And what about the other? And you might have another few on the other end of the scale that are tire kickers and waste a lot of your time. They might subsequently buy something, but then eventually they've made an excuse as to why it wasn't quite right and they want a refund, or they've got a problem with it, or they're unhappy with how you price them. We get all of these customers all the time. And unless we were aware as to who they are, where do they come from, and how did they find us, then the risk is that when we win some new customers, we're just as at risk of winning the tire kickers as we are winning the advocates. And it's only when we start to niche and say, so of all of the people I've ever served, who were the best ones that I ever worked with, and why was that? What can I learn about them that as I start to attract new customers, I can start to tailor my offers to become more attractive to them and actually more unattractive to them. So understanding who our target customers are and to be able to have a good understanding of why they might want to be able to buy from us starts the ball rolling to establish as to, is this a passion project and something as a side hustle, or have I got the capacity to be able to grow this into a scalable business? What's the size of the industry, and understanding how to better communicate with the people that we're trying to attract into our new and growing scaling business. So the more that we can characterize the ideal target client, not just on demographics, but understanding about geographics, psychographics, understanding their decision-making process, understanding the time frame it took them from first finding you to making a purchase to making a recommendation. The more data that we can gather about our ideal target client audience helps us to be able to run through cash flow forecasting, helps us to understand about how many customers we actually need and the type of work that we're doing for them. It forms everything that the business plan is going to be built upon. So spending a little bit of time looking at your current database, the people that you're serving as of today, and saying, can I put them into one of four categories? Now,
bear in mind, there is a caveat here. You must never share with a customer the category that you've chosen to put them in. That would just be suicide. But I want to quickly share with you what those 4 categories are, because they're not quite as self-evident as perhaps it might first seem. An A-grade customer loves you. They love who you are. They love what you do. They are a massive 10 out of 10 advocate. They are promoting you to the high heavens. They're happy to be able to make recommendations and referrals. They did some good work with you. They enjoyed the work that you did. You enjoyed working with them. They were a great person. It was good work. It was enjoyable. It was profitable. It was an emotional connection. There was some loyalty based on the work that we did, and the profits happens to happen in the background. It was a joy to be with them, an A-grade customer. And I can tell you from our ADDAZERO research, from well over 120,000 people that have now completed our free ADDAZERO survey, that about 5 or 6% of people's audience might fit into that A-grade category. If you've got 10 or 15 or 20% of people that you think are loyal advocates, you're either doing something that's world class, or you possibly haven't even set the bar high enough, and you could push even further to find out where those top 5% are. A B-grade customer spends a lot of money with you. A B-grade customer is a profit customer. They spend a lot. They are rapid. They are quick returners. They might order more and more of your product or service. They are repeatable. However, the difference between a B and an A, and predominantly the only difference between a B and an A, is a B knows that they've spent a lot of money with you. If you've got a pricing package and you've got a bronze, silver, gold type example, and they've bought gold, then my God, they want platinum from you. They were rather demanding, because I've spent a lot of money with you, that you had to adhere to their terms. And there was a little bit of to-ing and fro-ing that went along. And the difference between an A and a B is an A was just a joy to work with. And although a B was profitable, there was some challenges along the way that if you don't go unchecked and unmeasured and just think, well, they were nice enough, it was profitable work, you might end up with a big churn rate of staff because they got fed up with all of the different terms and conditions that you were having to adhere to and hurdles that you were jumping over in order to be able to honour that agreement. So the difference between an A and B might not be a cash advantage. It might be that the B was more profitable than an A, but they were a bit of a pain in the bum to go with it. It was good work, and I don't mind accepting it, but it wasn't easy flow work. A C-grade customer, I call them bread and butter cash. I'm originally from Nottinghamshire, but I lived in the northeast for a long time, and I used to call them bread and butter cash. They might not spend a lot of money with you. They might necessarily recommend or refer you. They might not come back and buy from you again. But that regular churn of C-grade customers, some cash into the business on a day-to-day basis, is the ones that we turn to if we've ever got a cash shortfall. If you ever need to be able to have a quick injection of cash, then putting an offer together and only sending it to C-grade customers is the sure way of being able to get a little bit of cash into the business shortfall if you ever need to be able to do so. So there's a massive need for a C-grade list. Ironically, when you look at businesses, and like I say, we've studied over 120,000 businesses in the last decade or so, about 60 to 67% of people's lists, people's customer base often falls into the C-grade category. So it's not as profitable as B. They weren't a pain in the bum. They bought something from you. The loyalty value is lower. If you ever did an NPS survey on the likelihood of them recommending you, they're probably a 6, 7, 8 rather than an A-grade customer who's a definite distinct 10. But they're a profitable business because of the volume in which we're able to transition with them. And a D-grade customer, I call them PITA, P-I-T-A. Quite simply, a pain in the ass. It doesn't matter how much money they spent with you, they were just awful. They complained about everything. Nothing was right. You ended up having to do more and more works to be able to satisfy them. You're almost on the verge of saying, do you know what? Have your money back. I'm had enough of this. If we don't identify who our pitters are, our D grade list, we're at risk of winning some new business and attracting some more D grades. And I can assure you, when you start to get 10, 12, 15% of people on your list that are doing business with you, but are just a pain to work with, then you've got a recruitment problem. Because I can assure you, the best talent in your business are walking out the door and probably going to work for your competition. So when we do list building and understanding customer segments as the first part of our strategy on a page today, I want you to understand who your existing customers are and which category they might fit into, that when we're building out the rest of the business plan, we're building it in conjunction with what we're trying to attract, our A's, our B's, our C's, what it is that they need to see, hear, feel, smell, taste, in order for us to be able to feel more compelled to move towards you, and tries to detract our D grades, probably to go and work with somebody else, possibly even our local competition. So that's the first place to start on our business plan and business strategy. However, if we jump back over, I want to quickly share with you, I did say that I was going to be completely genuine and honest and share with you. So when we did our business strategy, we looked at the customer segmentation. Now, we've currently got 3 predominant offers. We've got a Basecamp program, an Explorer program, and a Summit program of mentorship to be able to help businesses to grow and evolve and support as they do so. So I'm sharing with you the evidence that we looked at in order to be able to identify as to who those people might be. And these are some of the characteristics of the things that we've noticed across the broad spectrum, broad brushstrokes of the people that we've worked with within those programs. So a Basecamp small business owner, usually somewhere between 30 and 50, looking to be able to stabilize the business first as they start to put the accelerator and growth plans in place. Some business experience, but facing some growth challenges. Eager to be able to implement more of a structured process in order to be able to have ease of flow of movement through the business. It's not a start, stop, good month, bad month. Usually around $500,000 turnover, although we've had some Basecamp members from 125,000 plus onwards, but usually working towards the first $500,000 turnover. And some of the big challenges that these people have are moving from working in the business, as Gerber talks about in eMyth, to having a full-time role working on the business and being able to be the operator owner. Possibly some problems with recruitment and how to be able to either attract the right people to the business, or understanding how to be able to let go and allow other people to be able to take on some of that responsibility, and improving profitability. It's often a very profit-sensitive business at that stage in the development, and therefore understanding how to be able to increase net profit is often a big challenge to them. As they progress and move through to Explorer, we tend to find that they are more of a medium-sized business. They've probably got a small team of people already PAYE and salaried within them. The age range of the business owner typically is just a few years older, about 35 to 55, and they might have been in business for typically between 5 and 10 years. They're seeking to be able to either expand the business or diversify into other sectors or industries, or possibly bring out a new product or service. They've got some experience because they've been around the block for a few years. They've been doing it for 5 or 10 years or so. Opens to innovative approaches. They've recognized that everything that they've done has got them to where they are, but perhaps they've become a little bit stale with regards to new thoughts and ideas, and looking for some interjections to be able to say, have you thought about this and what about that? And tends to see a 7-figure income, possibly around the 2 to 3 million part when we start working with them through Explorer. The biggest challenges that they tend to present to us are market expansion and how to be able to promote the business to a larger audience, team management and how to be able to recruit not just people into the business, but team roles, and how to be able to accelerate from team leaders to managers to director, and what that looks like for the individuals concerned. And some operational efficiencies. They want to be able to get more bang for the buck, as it were. They want to be able to see more return for the amount of investment being made. They want to be able to have some checks and measures in place and understand the benefits of KPIs. And then finally, our summit package tends to be for bigger businesses also, established entrepreneurs, seasoned business leaders, perhaps a little bit older still, 45 to 65, business in operation, usually in excess of 10 years. We've got 2 people that we're working with in Summit that are 25 years plus. One's a 90-year-old business that's 3rd generation hand-down business, as it were, aiming to significantly and sustainable business scaling, possibly even thinking about their exit strategy. Highly experienced and looking for some transformational strategy, either in handover takeover to be able to pass to the next generation, or looking for being able to have an evolution and exit plan and how to be able to do that effectively and successfully without having to worry about EBITDA values. Committed to the long-term growth and the legacy that they leave behind, usually 10 million turnover plus. We've got a couple of clients on at the moment. One's at 22 million. One's at 70 million turnover. Challenges, industry disruption. They're now looking to be able to take the bull by its horns and say, look, I don't want to be a mediocre player anymore. We want to be able to do something significant and different and shake up the way in which our profession works. Maintaining growth momentum to be able to make sure that there's no seasonal dips and flows in their income streams, and having a little bit more planning in place for 12, 24, 36 months of cash flow forecasting and succession planning. Like I say, some of the clients that we work with are looking to be able to start exiting from the business and what that might look like. So we've done a little bit of work on our segmentations to be able to help you understand as to what the type of detail that you might be looking for, and where your programs or your offering, your services might work towards, and how best to be able to communicate with them. So let's dive back in and understand. Now we've got our clients, we might want to start looking now at what are the current problems that they're facing. What is it that they are having a challenge with that you're able to be able to interact with? However, I don't want you to just stop there. It's all right saying, well, we build houses, so people want a house built. We've got a problem with the forest, and we need you to come along and prune all of our trees and tidy it all up. We're getting married and we'd like to capture the event by having it video. I'm not talking about the distinct, obvious problem in front of them. I'm talking about we all have challenges and problems. We all have things that we're facing on a day-to-day basis, the considerations that we're making on a day-to-day basis. And one of those is the problem that you're able to help and resolve. However, unless we can resonate with the persons to demonstrate that we understand that the problem that they're facing, the considerations that they're having to be able to make in context with all of the other things that they've got to give considerations to, I can guarantee you that although this is a top priority for you, it might be a 5th or 6th priority for them. And it's only when we start to understand the context of the problem, it's only when we start to understand the complexity of the other considerations that they're having to make, that we can start to cut through all the noise with our marketing message to be able to make sure that it resonates with them, to show them that, do you know what, if I just gave it to Scott, all of that hassle could go away and I'll have more brain power to think about all the other things that I've got to consider. And it's only by knowing what that might be that we can communicate far more effectively to be able to say, look, let me just take this hassle off your hands and we'll get it fixed for you so you can go away and consider all the other things that are going off. It might be the one and primary consideration for you in your relationship with them, but they've got lots of other stuff going on. And we need to take that into consideration when we're communicating with them so we don't just come across as a pest or pushy. So understanding some of the alternatives to them buying from you and paying you a fortune today is just as critical as understanding how best to communicate with them. Certainly one of the things that we've had real success with over the last 12, 18 months, probably post-lockdown and COVID, is to be able to talk to people about what would happen if you did nothing. If the problem that you've got that we could resolve together, if you just decide that it's not a high enough priority and you leave it as it is, what would then happen? And if we go through a bit of a scenario to say, well, if we don't fix it this year and we left it till next year or the following year, how big a problem is it going to become before it becomes a high enough priority? And how do we help you to be able to either resolve it at that time, or by understanding the enormity of the problem that's going to occur if you don't get it fixed, might help them to push it up the priority list as to why it's important to fix it today. So understanding content and context is critical to understand how best to communicate with people when understanding where they are in their journey towards making the right decision. So, Basecamp. Probable causes or probably challenges that they're having that we're able to help and resolve is moving from operator to owner, moving from working in the business to having some designated time to working on the business, knowing who to hire, how to hire, and what's to be able to do with a new hire, and helping to be able to improve profitability are all things that we know that we can help them with, and will enable them to be able to move forward far more confidently, knowing that they've now got more brain power and times to be able to think about all the other issues that are going off in their life. Likewise, marketing explorer, being able to do market expansion and understanding as to how to be able to do a SWOT analysis of our peers to understand as to where does our marketing sit and what do we need to do differently in order to be able to cut through all of that noise to be able to have a better communication with the people that we're looking to be able to work with. How best to be able to allocate team and understand the importance of KPIs, how to set them, how to measure them, and what to do with them. And operational efficiencies, some apps that we can put people towards to be able to know what to give, when to give, how to give, and how to measure to ensure that people are working as profitably as possible in an enjoyable situation that they can continue into the sustains to be able to do so. So understanding, it says Basecamp there, it shouldn't do it, we should read Summit. Nevertheless, we need to change that immediately. But for now, for the Summit people, industry disruption, how to be able to segment ourselves from everybody else, to be able to have a different core message, to start breaking away from the norm and being able to set our own path and allowing people to be able to follow in a different direction. You've only got to think about Uber and what Uber's done in the last 10 years or so to be able to disrupt the taxi market, to understand as to how that best can be served. Maintaining growth momentum, what things that we need to be able to put in place, not only to be able to rely on when the phone's ringing, but what to do to make the phone ring so we don't have to worry about those seasonal gaps and dips. And then succession planning. What does that look like? There's 7 different ways to be able to exit a business, and exploring each and every one of those to identify as to which one or ones are best suited to the owner and the shareholder, and how best to be able to facilitate that so we don't have to rely on EBIT valuations. Once we've got those 2 segments in place, we can now come in and say, so what is our unique value proposition? What is it that we need to put forward that we're not vanilla and competing word for word like our competitor is, but how do we cut through all the noise to have a really, really strong message that resonates with our ideal target client audience well enough that says, these people get it. Now, I'm fortunate enough to have been invited over the last 17 years, nigh on 16, 17 years, I've been a conference speaker, both here in the UK and elsewhere around the world. I've probably spoken to nigh on 400,000 different business owners over the last 17 years or so, talking about disruptive change, blue ocean strategy, how to be able to grow and scale. And one of the things that I've noticed when you get it right, and you can have 1,000 people in the audience, and when you say something and somebody in the audience is looking around as if to say, my God, he's in my head. He's talking to me. What he's saying right there, that's where I am right now. And the knack is to have 1,000 people sat in the audience, and over the course of the 60 or 90 minutes that you're presenting, to be able to deliver something so resonant that you hit all of them with that type of a message. It's not about one-to-one, it's about one-to-one to many. And that comes from being able to have a good understanding of the ideal target client audience, the problems that they're facing, so we can communicate in such a manner that it cuts through all of the features and benefits that everybody else seems to concentrate on, and really hits home with regards to how I understand you, your journey right now, and what it is that not only you're trying to, the problem that you're trying to overcome, but what you're trying to achieve as a result of that. Let's face it, at the end of the day, we are solution providers. It doesn't matter whether you're filming something or dancing for something or cutting something down or building something. It matters about understanding as to what will that now enable them to do once you've finished your intervention with them. What can they now do after you've walked away and invoices paid that they couldn't do or struggled to do beforehand? And helping them to connect with that image and to show that we understand what that is, that in actual fact, the interaction that we're going to have to get there is just a means to move from pains to pleasure, to move from problems to solution. So delivering a high-level concepts, talking about problem and solution, understanding pre-existing pain and what solution will enable them to do, as opposed to, now you've got a wonderful built house. What can I now do with my wonderfully built house that I couldn't do beforehand? Being able to use case study evidence, talking about testimonial evidence of befores and afters, helping the persons to understand that, one, you've got experience in this, that you've done it before for other people just like them, and enable them to move from pain to pleasure easily, is the means in which we need to be able to give considerations to how we communicate externally and what we do internally in order to be able to make that a reality. So having a unique value proposition. I would like to think that our award-winning program is our unique value proposition. We help conscientious, apologies, I've put my teeth in. We help conscientious business owners and leaders to significantly and sustainably scale up their businesses using an award-winning and accredited ADDAZERO methodology, guiding them from operational challenge to strategic growth and legacy building. Simply put, we're not just teaching you to climb a mountain. We're equipping you with the skills to conquer any peak that you then face, that you can then live the legacy rather than having to leave one to somebody else. And that's what sets us apart from coaches and consultants and trainers, is about being able to have that one-to-one relationship with each and every person that we work with, rather than a one-size-fits-nobody, to be able to tailor the ADDAZERO offering to the people that we serve to help bridge the gap between where they are and where they would like to be able to be. Once we've put that together, we can move into step 4, the solution, and outline a possible solution for each of the problems that they may have. One of the problems that we recognized our clients had, certainly during lockdown and coming out of lockdown, is some people were a little bit apprehensive because of the change in environment that we've been operating in. We've moved from working from an office space, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and all of a sudden there's this lockdown period and a period of working from home or paid to stay at home as the government looked after the country in doing so to keep us all safe. And then that period of the great resignation and the huge impact on now working from home as the typical norm almost, that some people were very apprehensive about being able to move into an ongoing coaching program. They were somewhat resistant to being able to make a longer term commitment. And therefore, we addressed that by being able to break some of the ADDAZERO down into bite-sized bits. And we created some specific modules just to be able to deal with set issues that we could help people through in a shorter period of time with a less of a commitment, both time and money, to be able to overcome a challenge and feel more comfortable in being able to move towards a longer commitment. And therefore, we were able to identify a change in the environment, a change in our customers' needs, and adopt our product and service accordingly in order to be able to overcome that particular problem or challenge. So our solution needs to be identify the right customer, identify the right problem, and identify the right means of being able to overcome that. There's no point saying we do everything online if the person wants to be in a physical in-person environment. There's no point saying, well, it's all digital product if the person likes a book to read in the hand. We've got to understand as to how do we best communicate what we do to who we do it for, and the mode in which we deliver that solution. So understanding the solution and how to be able to best communicate that with the customer, that the customer buys into it and says, do you know what? These guys get it. They understand that I only want you to be on site on Saturdays because I'm away playing golf. Well, we need to be able to come up with that as a solution if that's what the customer is looking for, particularly if it's our A-grade customers. So we've come up with some tailored solutions to support the people that we are identified as the people that we tend to work with. So Basecamp for established solid business foundation, Explorer for expanding and optimizing growing businesses, and then Summit for transforming established businesses and creating exit plans. It's about being able to understand where is the customer, what do they need, and how do you tailor your offerings to be more effective with what it is that they're looking to be able to achieve. Now we can move back to the business. Now we've done all the stuff, the research to understand as to the size of the problem and how we can communicate the business. We can now come back inside and say, so how do we get that information to them? Too many people start with, oh, do you know, I don't do much on LinkedIn. I really ought to do lots on LinkedIn. I'm going to come up with a LinkedIn strategy and we're going to post every day for the next 90 days and the phone won't stop ringing for the rest of the year. But we're going to do LinkedIn. Brilliant. What should we say? Well, you know, we've got lots to say. We're a good company. We've been established for a long time. We've got lots of photographs and testimonials. We'll flood LinkedIn with all of the things that we've already done. And that'll be sufficient for the people to see it, to pick the phone up and say, can you do that for me? If that's your LinkedIn strategy, and it's perhaps cost you £1,000 to be able to spend the time, the effort, the research, the resources to be able to put all that together, then I strongly recommend that you take the £1,000, step out your front door and give it to the first stranger that walks past with the hope that they might feel sorry for you and spend £10 and say, they are, mate, thanks very much. Because you're probably going to get a better return on investment if that's the level of thinking that we're going to apply to our marketing. You're doing all of the right things in completely the wrong order and therefore not getting the return that you deserve for the effort and consideration that we've already asked you to make in doing steps 1 to 4. To do marketing effectively, we've got to have a 3-pronged attack, and it's called the triple M. M for Mike or mother. What I've described, don't write this bit down because this is the wrong way, and then I'll show you as to why it's all the right things in the wrong order. What most people do is they start with the media and they say, LinkedIn's the place for me. Then they craft a message. What is it that we want to tell people on LinkedIn? Let's tell them all about the things that we do and how we can help them and this and the other. And then they go to market. They go to LinkedIn and they try and spread the messages as far and wide as they possibly can. I call it shotgun marketing. They're firing from the hip and all of the little pellets are going everywhere with the hope that some of them stick sufficiently that people come and... It's not the right way round. We just need to do exactly the same thing in reverse and say, who is the target market, which is why we started in number 1 with looking at our ideal target clients, our current existing customers. What message do they need to hear for you to stand out from anybody else in the sector? Understanding their pain points and the relevance and the context of who it is and what we're doing and why we're doing it before we craft a message to them. So the market first, understanding who our ideal target market is. The message second, what is it that they need to hear, smell, taste, touch, feel, in order for them to realize that we are different from anybody else and everybody else in the sector. And then, how do we bring the two together? How do we get our message to that market? Where are they? Are they on LinkedIn? Because there's no point me spending thousands of time and effort and hours on LinkedIn if they're all on TikTok. They're in the wrong place. So the media has to be, where are they? And not just which of those platforms do I prefer to be on, but which platforms, both online and offline, are they on? And how do I make my message omnipresent in all of those places? I want my message to follow them around the internet and around their life, on the radio and the podcasts that they watch and the magazines that they read and mail shots through the door. I want to sponsor the kids' football team. I want to be in the gym. I want to be everywhere to that person. That wherever they look, they're being influenced by my message, understanding their problems and how best I can help and overcome them. So omnipresence is critical to be able to get our message to the right person effectively enough that they feel confident to be able to make a move towards us and show an interest, separating us from everybody else that's just bombarding them with free stuff on emails and hoping that that'll work. So understanding where are our clients, both online and offline, and then saying, how do I communicate my message to them in such a consistent way that it stands out from everybody else and resonates with them sufficient to be able to make an inquiry. There you go. So we have a 5-step approach, and depending on where people are in the journey towards working with us, depends on where they might see us and how they might resonate with us. But this is the My True North marketing path to enable people to move towards to us, to establish as to whether we're a good fit and whether this might work for both of us, a win-win outcome. It starts on social media. Like I say, I've just launched the series 2 of the ADDAZERO podcast, and I'm a TEDx speaker. I speak regularly at conferences and events, both here in the UK and further wider afield, both in the US and UAE, to business audiences to be able to share a message about ADDAZERO and about how we can help work towards a significant and sustainable outcome. From there, people might choose to be able to move into my online community. I've got a Facebook group, I've got a LinkedIn page, business page. There might be a subscriber to the podcast by then. And we offer a free audit to be able to help people understand the current opportunities and vulnerabilities in their existing business. And if you want the details for that, I'll make sure that we put a link in the chat towards the end of this presentation. It'll also be emailed to you tomorrow with the show notes and access to the recording. And all of that's for free. It might be that people say, do you know what, I really like this guy, Jay, and the My True North stuff. I'm going to move further towards him. I'd like to dip my toe in the water. I might be able to access a little bit of his information, but I'm not yet ready to be able to make a big spend. I just want to test him out and see what he's like. Well, I've written 4 books, 2 of them self-published, 2 of them professionally published. They're available in both paperback, ebook, and on audio, on Audible. And I run things like this, the masterclasses, an opportunity for people to be able to see a little bit about who we are, what we do, to be able to overcome a significant but very succinct challenge that they might be facing. And it gives people a taster with regards to the type of work that I do, how I do it, the way in which I communicate with people. And it makes people feel perhaps a little bit more comfortable with being able to move towards us and make an inquiry either now or at some stage in the future. Then we have a whole series of different solutions for people if they want to be able to progress and move forward. Literally from a Pick My Brain session, a paid 1 hour, how do you best access me to be able to overcome a particular challenge. It might be to look at something from a different perspective. It might be able to give you some feedback or thoughts and suggestions. We regularly run VIP days where I will spend 1 full day, 24 hours, with the business owner, working with them on a challenge that they bring to the table, and we look at being able to break it down, fix it, and then resolve it, all within a day. And I'm not saying the fix is done in a day, but the plan to move forward and how to be able to execute that will be all delivered within 24 hours. And then we've got a short program of just 3 months where we offer either a Pillars of Progress, and I'm most grateful that a couple of you are on today's call. We also run something called Battlefield to Boardroom for perhaps a little bit more established businesses that are specifically looking for help and support in being able to grow teams and team dynamics. And we've got some short 3-month interventions on a week-to-week basis to be able to help people to be able to oil those cogs. And then, like I say, our more established programs, 12 months programs where we work together collectively over a year in either Basecamp, Explorer or Summit, or often people move from one to the next as they grow and evolve and develop. But having a path for people to follow and to understand as to where are they, what do they need, when are they likely to be interacting with you, and for us to be able to be communicating that effectively to people enables us to be able to have not just a full pipeline, but a clean pipeline where we know where people are and how best to communicate with them at that period in order for them to be able to either have a solution and a resolution and walk away happily into the future, but more than happy to be able to give either, a positive review or a testimonial or perhaps a reference or recommendations to somebody else to be able to come and experience it from us, or a more engaged ongoing process where we're able to help and work with people on a day-to-day basis for longer and longer. And then it's looking at revenue streams and understanding that we need to be able to have some short-term cash. We need to be able to bring money in on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis to be able to feed the fire, as it were. We also ought to be considering some mid-term cash, and where's the cash going to come from in the next quarter and the following quarter and the quarter preceding that, and understanding as to we've got some projects that we're working on now towards some cash flow coming into the business, and we might start to think about some larger profit margins and some bigger projects that take a little bit more time and efforts to be able to win over. And then obviously we'd like to be able to win some large projects, perhaps some big commercial work that might take a long time to be able to build and relationships before we can start to be able to see that falling into our bank balance on either a project by project basis or perhaps a little bit more succinct if we end up on a framework as such. But there's no point chasing the big stuff if in the interim we run out of cash and we grow broke. So understanding the flow of cash through the business, of where does it come from, how frequently does it come to us, how long does it stay with us, and where do we allocate it whilst it's with us, and then when does it leave us and where is it traveling to. And understanding the flow of money through a business is critical to understand where we need to spend our time and effort and energy to be able to ensure that we've got some short flow, some mid flow, and some long flow cash coming into our business. And to understand where that money is coming from and the activities that we need to have in place in order to be able to maintain that, to be able to ensure that the wheels are continually oiled. Excuse me, quick slurp. Is critical so we don't either go broke or grow broke. Understanding the flow of cash is critical to understanding as to where you need to spend your time, effort, and energy. So in My True North, we have book sales, we have royalties from books that have been written and are sold by other people. I receive speaker fees for when I'm speaking at events, both internally and externally. We run some single events similar to this. Most grateful to you for the investment you've made on being here today, but also those pick your brain sessions or VIP sessions. We know when we advertise them, we know how far in the future that we've got bookings for. We can have a cash injection by offering some single investment opportunities. We've got some short-term engagements through our Pillars of Progress program or our Battlefield to Boardroom program. And then mid-term engagements tends to be our Basecamp Explorer and Summit stuff. And then ongoing stuff. I'm also I sit as non-exec director on 2 different boards where I'll receive a little bit of a remuneration on an ongoing basis, on a longer term basis, that I've got some interaction with over that period of time. But it might be a lot now and very little later on, but there's an ongoing commitments to being able to support that business and to be remunerated accordingly. Now, that's all great, understanding where the cash comes from, but understanding as to what happens to it when it gets to us. And there are too many business owners that don't spend enough time, effort, or energy properly understanding both fixed and variable costs, and how things like Rachel Reeves and the decisions she's made as Chancellor are having an impact on some of the things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis, both directly and indirectly, because of the costs involved and the inflation that's happening in the UK market right now. So understanding pounds, shillings and pence, fixed costs, and how much of our short-term cash is being taken up to take that pain away. There is nothing more rewarding in a business owner to be able to walk in on the 1st of January and know that January's costs are covered before you start work by ongoing commitments where people are making a payment every month. Then anything that you then subsequently do within the month becomes growth and profit margin. So understanding your fixed costs and having a method of being able to have your fixed costs predominantly covered by ongoing commitments is a blessing that I call it the go to sleep happy money that allows you to be able to put your head on the pillow on a night and know that everything's safe, that we don't have to worry about the break even and where the cash flow is going to come from, so to be able to pay the salaries at the end of the week or the month. And then subsequently, that mid-term cash and the longer-term cash, and being able to dissect the difference between a fixed and a variable cost, that before we win that next big project, and trust me, I made a big mistake about 2008, when we won a huge big contract, £750,000 for a year for the next 2-year contract. But the outgoing costs, because we'd won a large contract on a huge big national framework, rather than our payment terms, which were usually 28 days strict, they pushed us onto 90 to 120-day payment terms, that whilst the cash was good, the flow of cash into the business was so dire that I'd spent nearly £100,000 in salary bills before the first invoice were due to be paid. That put a huge big constraint on everything else that we did in those first 3 or 4 months, waiting for the first invoice to land and be paid. So understanding cash flow and short-term, mid-term, long-term cash, understanding our break-even point and how to be able to push that forward and ensure that we've got it covered as quickly as possible so we can concentrate our thoughts, effort, energy on growth cash, is critical to understanding where do you need to spend your time, effort, and energy. And obviously, as you can appreciate, whilst I want to be as open, honest, and transparent as everybody else, I'm unlikely to be able to be giving you the facts and figures of exactly what's happening in the background of My True North, other than to say that we know pounds, shillings, and pennies per hour, as opposed to just per month, on our fixed costs, our variable costs, and our break-even point per hour, to know as to where we are and what we need to do and how we need to be able to concentrate our efforts in our marketing and our sales to be able to ensure that that pipeline remains full. Now we can look at some key metrics and understanding the numbers that a business owner needs to work on in order to be able to have that comfortability as we put our head on the pillow every night. Trust me, all of those people that have heard the expression before, the business of business is business, it's just baloney. The game of business is numbers. How the game is played is business. You've got to become comfortable in knowing the numbers in your business and to play a game with the activities that we do in marketing and sales and operations and finance and team in order to influence those numbers. So these are the 5 things that I believe that every business owner ought to not just be able to calculate or work out, but to know on a day-to-day basis, so they know where to spend their time, effort, and energy as we move forward throughout 2025. The client business growth rate, understanding as to where is your cash coming from and are you a growing business? Trust me, if we're looking at a 5 or 5.5%, which we potentially are in the April of this year, a 5 or 5.5% growth, business growth rate, global growth. What am I talking about? If the UK economy is set to grow by 5.5% this year, if your business isn't overtaking that and growing at 5.5%, 6%, 7%, if you're only growing at 4% this year, if the average growth rate of the country is 5.5%, you're falling behind. You're doing less now, you're earning less now for doing more and more work to try and compete with everybody else. We've got to understand what the growth rate is in the economy right now and how are we accelerating beyond that. And if we don't know that number, then you're at risk of becoming a bit of a dinosaur and falling behind all of those people that are moving forward quicker and more effective than you. For us as a business, it's about the program completion rate. We want to know that the things that we've put in place for people are being implemented. So we measure how many people come onto our programs, the progress that they make on a week-to-week basis, and how to be able to interact and support them in being able to get the most from the program, and the impact it's had, not just on the day of completion, but 3, 6, 9, 12 months later. And some of the statistics that we're now able to quote, knowing that the people that we worked with in 2017, 2018, 2019 are still getting a 26, 27, 28% net profit growth years after they completed the program as a direct result of the things that we put in place so we can help them measure that and to see it rolling out, progressing beyond the program and the intervention that we had with them. So our program completion rate is critical for us to be able to share some statistics with new customers of what they can expect, not just throughout the program and when they're likely to be able to see that growth, but the ongoing sustainability of that growth beyond our intervention with them. Client retention rate. We want to know that we've got some happy customers, because a happy customer is more likely to come back and buy from you again, and a happy customer is more likely to be able to recommend and refer you to other people. So I'm really proud that we celebrate 10 years in May this year, and over the last 10-year period, we've got a 91% succession rate of people staying with us and moving through one program to the next. It's a delight to be able to help and serve and support people, some of our clients that have been with us from the day we launched in May 10 years ago. A net promoter score, understanding of where do you sit in your wider industry. A net promoter score is scored anywhere between -100 and a +100, and then it gives you a number. Now, interestingly enough, because that number is so variable, what they suggest is that you should be aiming for +50 plus. If you're 30 to 50, you're in a good category. If you're 50 plus, you're in an excellent category. And if you're at 70 plus, you're aiming towards world-class category. You're in the top prime of the people within your industry. And I'm really thrilled that our clients, we run this once a year and we'll do an NPS score and ask them, based on what you've done and how you've intervened, the likelihood of you recommending us to somebody else and your experience that you've had with us so far. And I'm really thrilled that we scored 72 late last year, up 1 point from 71 the year before. So I'm really thrilled that we're in the upper echelon of our NPS score. And then finally, the fifth thing that I measure, but something that's obviously critically important to every business, but for me, it's not the primary reason why I'm here today, is understanding our own revenue growth and understanding as to, are we generating enough more income? Are we becoming as profitably as possible? And what are we doing with that profits? And I'm really thrilled that, for the last 10 years or so, we've had an ongoing commitment with the charity that we always make a charitable donation as a percentage of our net profit growth every year. So understanding as to the commitment we've made to support a charity and how we can continue to do that progressively by being able to grow the top line and to retain our profit margin sufficiently that we can continue to make a bigger donation each and every year. And then the critical bit, the bit that punches the competition in the guts and say, but what's your unfair advantage? What is your niche? What is it that you stand out amongst everybody else in the industry? And how do we ask for you by name, or simply typing in the problem that we have into Google and having lists and lists and lists of other opportunities? How do they ask for you as opposed to this problem that you fix? And I'd like to think that our ADDAZERO methodology stands us apart from anybody else in the industry because of the amount of data that we can now quote and research to be able to demonstrate that the impact of the things that we talk about aren't an emotional connection or data-driven emotional decision, but a data-driven decision. We've got over 117,000 people at the time that we created this presentation. It's just over 120,000 as of pretty much January this year, of people that have completed for free our audit, our survey of their business opportunity and vulnerability. And we're able to, obviously with GDPR and protecting their anonymity, but we're able to be able to take that data and to be able to utilize it in such a way that we can now make some pretty accurate predictions with regards to the problems that people are having, the solutions that they need, and the time frame that they need to be able to put it within before it starts to become a bottleneck and create too much friction as they continue to grow their business. We know that this works because we've had 10 clients of Entrepreneur of the Year finalists. We've had 4 winners in their particular category. We've also had 3 clients. I'm really thrilled that after I finish this presentation today, I'm immediately jumping into transport and heading off down to London, that tomorrow, the 3rd of our clients over the last 5 or 6 years really are being recognised by the Palace for service to their community as a direct result of the implementation of the ADDAZERO methodology. I've got Steve Carr flying over from Thailand, who landed in London earlier this week. I'm meeting him for breakfast tomorrow morning, and I'm his +1 as we go to the palace for Steve to receive a British Citizenship Award for his service to the suicide prevention industry as a direct result from going from a sole trader and teaching a little bit of mental health wellness and training to becoming a global leader. He's now operating globally. He lives in Thailand, but providing suicide prevention at such a distinct level that it's not just been recognised within his industry or his sector, but the palace have got involved, and I'm going to give him his honour tomorrow, of which I've been invited to be able to go and support him and witness. And like I say, over the last 10 years or so, we've won 3 global awards for the impact ADDAZERO has on business. So we know that we've got not just a bit of a niche, we've got something that's world class that people have voted for, both in accreditation and our NPS score, that makes a sizable and challengeable difference. And that, in its essence, is a business strategy on a page. It's about being able to look at a business from a whole completely different perspective. And rather than going to a funder and saying, I'd like to be able to borrow some cash, don't get me wrong, I'm happy to give you a template if that's the type of plan that you're looking for. But I want to have something that's a lot more practical, that you can have on your desk, that you can share with your team, to be able to say, and this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, this is how we are different, and this is how we're going to be able to make a big enough difference.